the Daily Talk Show, episode 725, and this is a two-parter. We've got Josh Piterman, and then we've got returning guest Brad Blanks after a full night's sleep. This will also be the last episode of our 24-hour live stream series. It's been so great to be with you all week, releasing these one by one. I hope you've enjoyed listening to them. I think the 24-hour live stream idea was a huge success, and we're so grateful for everyone who came on. It's going to be great to go back and listen to these in the future. So I hope you enjoy this final episode. It is a two-parter with Josh Piterman and Brad Blanks.
Josh Piterman!
I'm so pissed off. His hair is so much better than mine. And I gotta take my hat off.
Mate, I haven't been.
Actually, no,
I'm not 19 hours into a podcast. Like the whole, whatever you want to call it. You guys I've slept.
Is that
mate.
a blow dry job?
Does
that require some level of hot heat coming out of a hairdryer?
No. The technique is a simple technique. Shower. Chuck the beanie on. When you get the beanie off, you get that.
Oh, mate, if I did that, could you imagine if I had done that, TJ, when I had hair, what my hair would look like?
No, Josh, that is so good. I'm so glad I know this because I did the exact same thing. And I would do it after. And I reckon it's got something to do with like the heat, but then sort of like an oil build-up in my hair that just holds it back. Anyway, mate, enough about
It's a strong oil build-up.
Yeah.
Hi, lads.
How are you, dude? Because fuck, I feel like you just sort of up and left and had this role on the Phantom of the Opera on the West End, and we didn't even know about it. We saw you only a month or so before you left. I feel like you were keeping stuff from us.
I was keeping stuff. It was strong level of keep happening. I was sworn to secrecy. So, I'd known about it for maybe 2 months before I left. Yeah. So it was, and that was, when was that? June, July last year I found it. No, May, June last year I found out. Yeah. So, and then I was over to the UK in July, and I've been here ever since. And as you all know, it's pretty mad here at the moment.
And so what did it look like for the first few months of experiencing the whole thing?
Of the COVID thing or the Phantom thing?
Of the Phantom thing, like before all the COVID shit hit, like what was it like?
Living the dream.
It's awesome. I mean, like, the Phantom of the Opera is like one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic musical of all time. The Phantom, therefore, is like the most iconic role of all time. Mask Life is epic. It's like, for me, and being a sort of classical style music theatre singer and a pretty eccentric dude, pretty deep dude at times, is like the perfect role to play. And I've dreamed about it for, I don't know, since I started this thing and this career a million whatever years ago, and listening and watching Anthony Warlow and all of that. So it was literally living the dream. And rehearsals were amazing, and it's been incredible. I mean, it is literally the role that keeps on giving. It's bloody hard. It's a taxing role, but it's 8 shows a week. But it's just so good to do. Like, I don't know, if the listeners know, like, or the viewers know what like that score is. It's the best. Like, music of the night. There is no better song to sing. So anyway, it's been awesome. And then March 16th, shit changed a bit.
Oh, mate, I just want to sort of bask in that sort of amazing time that you had. White in the YouTube comments said that Phantom of the Opera is his favourite. I remember seeing, like, I haven't even seen it, right, but I remember running around the house saying that line, "The Phantom of the Opera is here," and my mum would tell me, and so my mum lived in London, and I think she's seen it. And I mean, when was your first time seeing that? When was the first time you saw that show or sort of got introduced to that as a performer?
I was 17 when I got introduced to it. So that was like 2002. And by that time, it had already been running on the West End for 16 years without a break. Like this show, like it's at 34 years now. This is the first time it's had any sort of break. Like that's crazy. And so I was listening to an Anthony Warlow CD at my mate's house. It was his parents' collection of, and yeah, I just fell in love with that song, with music. I hadn't heard the Titilia track. Is that how we say title? Titilla track. Anyway. I just want to say,
and it's only it was 5:15 p.m. Like, what's your excuse? It's 2:15 here. No
excuse.
I appreciate it.
And so yeah, I was listening to it and I just like, this is what I want to do. It's when I first got into musicals and began, and I said, this is the role I want to do. This is the song I want to sing. And so yeah, sort of crazy that 17 years later I've got to do it. Yeah.
What's the lifestyle like? Obviously, like pre-COVID, is it like cafe culture? Like what's the actual, like, what's day to day in your life?
I wish it was spectacular and sort of glamorous, mate, but it's like it's such a big thing and such a big act. It's sort of easier to go from when I get into the theatre, which is at about 5 o'clock for a 7:30 show. I do about an hour of warm up, sort of mental, physical, vocal, or so, have something to eat, and then I get into the makeup chair at about 6:30. Takes just around an hour or so to do the makeup, all the prosthetics and everything because under the mask is quite the deformity. And we've got to get this thing looking ugly. And then from there I do another little warm up, and then I go on stage about 20 minutes into the show. And then after the show's done, I chat to some people at stage and I don't talk from about 10:30 that night till midday the next day. I'll do a bit of movement, some yoga or something, eat when I wake up, generally pretty late, 9:30, 10. Yeah, as I said, don't talk till midday, and it's all really about recovery and getting ready to do it all again. So in those 5 hours between sort of 12 and 5, I'm slowly warming up my voice a little bit. As I said, gentle movement, go for a walk, do some yoga and eat and chat to my fam or chat to Lottie, my girlfriend, and then go in and do it all again. On the matinee days, Thursdays and Saturdays, all of that just gets pushed forward earlier, and I'm in the theatre from about midday and don't get out of makeup until 10:30. So yeah,
I feel like I'm asking about cafe culture then, because it seems like there's not only is there no cafes, there's no talking. Like that's fucking intense.
JP, we caught up in Sydney when you were doing the show up in Sydney. It was the final run. What was that one?
Beautiful karaoke musical
cafe. Yes. Were you still doing that show? Because that was cafe culture. We did have a nice sort of kombucha together, and you were very relaxed.
Oh yeah, that was genuine cafe culture. I mean, occasionally if there's a cafe thing, this will happen at about 4 o'clock before I get into the theatre. I'll meet a mate for a coffee.
I'm not obsessed with the cafe thing. I just had this sort of like vision of some sort of, I can't even remember what happens in the Notebook, but I just have these. Sorry, not Notebook. What is it? What's the movie that you watched the other day, Sevs? The one Notting Hill. That sort of that sort of vibe where it's just like, oh, you're accidentally bumping into people, but like maybe there's some avocado in it nowadays with a bit of feta or something. I don't know. But anyway,
okay.
It's sort of not the case. But when I was doing that show in Sydney, Tommy, because the role I was playing, Jerry, didn't really sing very much, and so I did all the cafes, all the meets, all the brunches, all the everything. So that one was easier to spend my money on avo and feta. This one, it's at home avo.
Yeah. Well, what would run us through the first few shows, because I could imagine your heart is thumping. You're a seasoned performer, though.
Doesn't matter, mate. You always get nervous. Well, the beautiful thing about the first show, so that was September 9th, my parents flew over from Oz, and they were there for the first week, so they saw opening night and maybe my first matinee performance. I had my cousins who live in London, my auntie, all there, my partner Lottie and her family from Scotland all came. I had a couple of other mates. I probably had a posse of about 20 there, and they were going chicken oriental. Like everyone was just going absolutely nuts. Chickpea and lentil, if you're a vegan. It was just amazing. And honestly, it's been one of those shows that, you have nerves and all that, but it's just so fulfilling. Like, I just feel like my heart is the cup is so full as a creative and as a singer and as an actor. I just get sort of lost in it. And, there's pressures and whatever, but there's always pressures to sort of do it 8 times a week. The other thing that's great about doing it here is that it's a system, and it's been going for so long. They know how to guide you through, and they know how to build you up to how to sustain it 8 times a week.
I just feel like it's perfect for you. Like, meeting you, like hearing you sort of talk about it, your energy in person is, you said you kind of, I don't think you used the word intense, but like you're a feeler. And I feel like you'd just be loving this whole thing. Like, it is so you at the moment. When it came March and the disruption, what is that doing to you?
Well, I'm a feeler. You also know I'm a pretty, I guess, like spiritual dude. And like my sort of sayings are always, this too shall pass, and control what, the controllables. And I mean, it's a virus. It's awful. It's hideous. Way too many people are ill with it, and way too many people have died. The financial disruptions, the economic disruptions. I mean, we know all of that. But not being able to put on a mask and do Phantom of the Opera, I guess, bears into some sort of insignificance when you compare it to, the vast nature of what's actually happening around the world. I mean, everyone's affected. So my suffering is no more sort of valuable than anyone else's suffering. In fact, it's far less than most. So, it's over for the time being. It's on pause for the time being. And when things get up and running again, whenever that is, and the people can go into theatres and they can do it safely, I'll just be back in the mask doing it again. Singing all the tunes.
Were there certain stages? So, like, I guess, it's been a bit of time now since we've been in isolation, doing all that sort of thing. Has your opinion and thoughts changed over the time?
I think there's an acceptance that I reached at about week 2 or week 3.
What does not accepting it look like? So before you get to week 2, what is that? What's that?
It's like trying to control everything, trying to like get on top of it. How am I going to make an income? How am I going to keep, my voice up? When are we going back? Not trying to get all the information all the time, and be on top of life, and then sort of surrendering to the fact that, this will pass when it passes was the lesson that I had to sort of reteach myself pretty quickly. And I'm glad I've done that sort of work in the past, and I guess meditation and being a spiritual woo-woo dude has sort of helped me with that. And now, I mean, yes, we all want to control certain things, but I think it's probably more beneficial to control what's happening, I guess, between one's ears at the moment and doing all the things to avoid the virus than it is to sort of, spend each day fretting about your bank account. Just don't think it's a constructive mode of operation.
Mm. Did you panic by anything?
It's sort of governed by fear. Did I panic by anything? Panic bought new linen.
Good purchase.
Panic bought, although it's in the other room because the missus is using it, a ring light.
Oh, yeah,
and with the tripod to put the phone for like all the Insta live singing I was doing. Yeah. Panic bought what are they called? Like
pull-up bar?
Lottie's just coming in the room. No, like bands. Yeah, you can come in. It's your home.
I'd like to meet.
Well, Lottie can come. You can come in through. Say hi to Josh, Tommy, and Mason.
And Mr. Mason.
They are. I'll take this
Hi,
off.
Lottie.
They're 19 hours into a 24-hour live thing. Like,
Wow.
these tired faces.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. Josh told me about that last night. Like, are you sleeping?
Yeah, no.
Absolutely
we don't.
2:30 a.m. right now, and we're pushing through till 7 a.m.
Mason is a laugh. He hasn't actually said anything yet. He's so tired.
Nah,
Look at Sevs doesn't normally look like that. You look terrible.
I'm so drained.
Not from the convo, Josh.
Stuck him up.
What was that?
Are
Sorry.
you having caffeine, chocolate,
Nah.
and stuff?
Well, we were just talking about caffeine. It's 2:25 a.m. here, and so we think that McDonald's might still do coffee, so we could get that. But we're too delirious to make a decision.
We'd love to get a few little groceries.
A few little groceries.
Go, love.
Oh, grab us a grab us a coffee if you can. Thank you.
Anyway, that's sort of in short how I've been sort of coping with it, and I got really I did get quite busy and do this like really nutcase Insta Live isolation world tour because I love singing songs from different parts of the world. So it was like a 12-stop world tour, and every few days I was somewhere else in the world, and it was a bit of a laugh. And when we ended up in Scotland, and this one and I did Proclaimers, it was brilliant. I mean, it was absolutely nuts, but it meant that I got to sing and bring lots of other artists into it, which is awesome. So heaps of Aussie artists did it, and I had a mate in New York join me and lots of different people. So that was really fun. And then this week I've just gone, I'm just really want to watch Netflix a lot. And so that's really all I've done.
What are you watching? What was the first thing that you binged?
There's an Israeli series called Fauda. It's about the Mossad and all of this sort of Hamas stuff. It's so interesting. That was my strong Israeli accent.
That was great.
It was strong.
Really,
That was good.
it was really strong. Yeah, and then I watched a bit of The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan thing. I feel like
Good.
I'll be into that. And then there's a BBC series called Normal People about Sally. It's Sally Rooney's book, Normal People, which is very good. So a little bit of a lot of things. Guys, you are so tired.
Yeah, we are.
You know what we
okay.
need? You know what we need? We need the vocal cords of JP to get us up and about. What's a song that you could just give us a little bit? Come
Straight
on,
up.
I know you.
We had
Sing
Pete
to me.
Murray
Sing to me,
earlier in
baby.
the day who sung Opportunity live on the show acoustically, which was ridiculous.
And what did he sing?
I saw come
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Was
yeah.
that up? You did. You
Oh,
did
no, I
not
think I
do
did
sing
Better Days then.
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
That's okay.
How many hits did he have?
What was that?
Sorry, say that.
How many hits did he have?
There was
trying to
a
find-
few. There was there was Better Days. What's the other one? There's a bunch. I have it all on my Spotify. What was that?
So beautiful.
Yeah, So Beautiful is a big one. That was great. But no, we don't want you to do a Pete Murray song if that's what you're thinking.
I'll give you a bit of Phantom because I mean I threw it
Yes.
out for John Foreman
Oh my God.
today on his show.
Okay.
So I can give you a tiny bit.
Okay, great.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Got it.
Night time shines, heightens each sensation, darkness stirs, and wakes imagination. Silently the senses abandon their defenses. This kind of music is going to make you go to sleep, guys.
But this is good.
No, I love it. I love it.
There you go. That's all you're getting.
No,
Because
that was great.
We've got to get. There you go.
Uh, that's amazing.
Why music
Love it.
really keep you up? That's the problem.
Yeah, it's,
Wow.
Complete music.
it's all right.
I'd prefer.
Do you want
We're
to?
not
Do you
at
have
a
any?
nightclub?
What else is
No,
news,
it'd be a
Josh?
boring night. What else is what else is news? Well, do we talk Trump?
Oh, you can talk Trump.
No.
Well, I didn't mean news. What about
No.
what was it? How about this?
What about
was
Boris?
The
A
highlight
bit
of your
closer to
day?
home. Let's talk Boris.
Well, he's just had a baby, Boris.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he survived it, because it actually sounded for a second like it was not going to go so well for Boris.
Mm.
Like
I think
just
it's so
for a
weird
minute.
if it, like a leader of a country dying from a virus is really hectic, isn't it?
Yeah, and his speech afterwards, just he was so emotional, and Boris doesn't. He gets passionate and takes a lot of pauses between things. So that's sort of his emotion, but actually almost in tears. It was yeah. I think he was in a bit of a shit way for a while there. So I'm glad he's on the other end of it, and he's got a baby coming. They've started talking about maybe at the end of the week they'll have a plan to deliver to us, but I think we're miles away from being where you guys are. I mean, we've still got like 1,000 cases a day, and you guys are like, what is it, like 20 cases a day? Not even 10 cases a day.
Yeah, not even. I mean, what is the you see how these things, like how ScoMo in Australia is handling it, comes from the bushfires disaster for him and his following, or his influence, and then you see it kind of shifted at the moment. Like, I think there's people saying, come on, he's doing the best with what he's got, it's in a good place. For what are people? I know Boris is not liked by. He's a bit of a not a Trump, but he is a polarizing sort of conservative over there. Are people starting to warm to him? Like, he nearly died.
Than Trump. I think. I mean, Trump is bereft of any sort of genuine human ability to feel another person. So he only feels himself, and I'm not entirely sure he's doing that very well. But so Boris is human. Look, I think he's handled it well since he decided to lock things down. The problem with what happened over here is they took too long to do it, and they had sort of, I think, maybe false information about the possibility of a herd immunity and keep it going, and then. I think they just did everything a few weeks too late, and we know with this virus is that a few days is a lot. So especially that start when it just goes. So a few weeks. Yeah, I think when they saw what was going on in Italy, that being close enough to the UK, I think they probably should have acted a bit faster. But and yeah, lives are lost and all sorts of shit has hit the fan because of it. But since lockdown, he's been okay, and I think people are pretty okay with him generally. Like, that's the consensus. And working in the arts, not generally a conservative following within the arts, but most people have been like, yeah, he's dealt with it pretty good. And Rishi, the Chancellor, Treasurer, I think people are really happy with him. I actually had a phone call with Josh Frydenberg a few weeks back. I sent him an email because I was dumbfounded. Yeah, I was dumbfounded by and really just appalled with the fact that artists don't have access to JobKeeper, even though they go job to job to job, and even though they were in jobs that now they can't be in because of the virus. And so he responded to my email. I was just like, can I give you a call? And so he gave me a call, and I respect the fact that he called. I thought it was very good of him to call. It's not every day that you just get a call from the government treasurer.
What did he say?
But
how does he answer it? Like, how does it all sort of connect up? First of all, is it sort of a bit of Josh, same name banter, like a bit of that gear, just connecting over that?
Can you give us a
genuine, like, how are you? Like, how are you actually dealing with it at an emotional level? And then beyond that, he wanted to make. I think I'm not entirely sure he knew that I was actually up with what was going on, and that I have a political and social conscience. And he would sort of explain to me, the difference between job seeker and job keeper and all that kind of stuff. And I know what that is. The fact is that in your government, you lugged the arts. You got rid of the name the arts from any sort of form of government. You lugged it with transport and regional communications and whatnot. And so the bloke who has to look after the arts needs to look after the budgets of regional transport and communication, all sorts of stuff. He's not, thinking about artists particularly. He's thinking about it as a whole bubble. And so you sort of devalued the arts there. And then when you said that artists can't get the job keeper, you devalued the arts again. And and therefore artists feel like they're not cared for, they're not understood, they're not valued. And he said, well, you are valued. And I said, well, that needs to occur in legislation as well. And nothing shifted. I mean, our artists still can't get JobKeeper unless you're in a job that's been running for over 12 months. And as we know, that's pretty rare for artists. They go gig to gig to gig, contract to contract. I think if you're in Harry Potter and have been from the start, that musical, that play, and then you've been going for longer than 12 months, and so you can get it. But I think it's absolutely, when we look around the world at how other governments have dealt with the arts, they understand that the arts is what people go to at these times. People need entertainment, people need help, people need hope and a spirit, and they need to be entertained. And so, that was shown in the bushfires, the firefight concert. The artists were the first people to come out and say, let's raise money for it. And then it's a bit of a slap in the face when you go, all right, well, when we need you, please come. But when it's time to, dip into our pockets for you, I don't think it's been met the way it should. And I offered up another alternative. What they've done here is pretty simple. They've said, if you're self-employed, you're an artist, show us your last 3 tax returns, or an average of your last 3 tax returns, and we'll pay you X amount based on that. And I mean, every artist that's a self-employed person in Australia should be able to do the same thing. I think it's madness that they can't.
And
have you heard of a bloke named Captain Tom over in the UK who's raised of cash?
Yeah, he's raised over £30 million, and at 100 years old, he's got a #1 single.
I don't know this story. Wow. What's the deal?
So, Lottie, am I right? Lottie hasn't left yet, in saying that he's been doing laps of his garden.
100 laps of his garden at 99 years old, and then he turned 100 on Thursday.
He's doing laps of the garden, and people are donating as a result of that. And then Michael Ball, who's a big music theatre star over here, and him and a big ensemble of people have done a version of "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is classic from Carousel, the musical. Josh, get that? But it's also a Liverpool anthem, and yeah, it's gone to #1. So at 100 years old, he got a #1 single. I mean, he barely sings in it, but incredible.
Talking about viral stuff, I could imagine you getting into TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
I tried.
Okay. Josh, what? What is it about me that you go, oh, I can imagine that you'd get into TikTok? Like, well,
you've got a cute face. You could be. You've got sort of the face of a sort of a 16-year-old boy that I think would appeal to the TikTokers.
To be honest, JP, you'd be playing a 16-year-old as a 30. How old are you now? 34 or something? 32. I can imagine you're timeless. You got that timeless piece on your.
And so you've got
head,
like
mate.
You've got the you can sing, you can do all that. So like, why wouldn't you? It's
on TikTok.
Yeah,
it's just so much fucking social media, and it's just too much for me. I can't do it. Lottie wants to get into it. She put our version of, if you go onto our Instagram on the world tour, we, a lot of it was singing some like beautiful, Italian arias and Spanish ballads and all sorts of stuff. When we got to Scotland, like, name me one band you know from Scotland. Give me one.
Sorry.
The Piterman is all I can think of. So we sung 500 miles. We dressed up. We did crazy
That's a good
choreography,
song.
and that went to Lottie put that onto TikTok, her TikTok account that says Josh and Lottie's TikTok account. So apparently I am on TikTok, but I can't bring myself to do a single video for it. I think it's too much.
I feel like this is like stages, you know, like you're going to get to the acceptance bit, and before you know it, you're sort of getting right
really
into it.
denying it.
I had a lot of
Start.
pushback too, and then it's sort of like,
Are you on it?
yeah. So the Daily Talk Show has an account, and we do duets with some of the Gronks. So we do sort of get amongst it, but it's good tunes. Like if you want to know what's up and coming, what the kids are listening to. They dance to the songs, because I went onto Spotify and I went on to the charts, and I realized I'm like, I know all these songs, and it was because I've danced to them on TikTok.
But aren't you guys also, Mason, maybe not yourself, because you couldn't be older than about 25, but
2020, yeah.
aren't you at that,
He's 20.
there you go, aren't you at that point where you go, I can't listen to the radio anymore unless there's like, unless I'm listening to
unless
someone
it's Smooth
talk.
FM. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Mate, no, exactly.
Literally.
I'm listening to 774. I'm familiar with Josh Frydenberg only because of Talkback.
That's it. I'm at that. One pop tune, unless it's by an artist who is like sort of giving me a massive old heart-wrenching ballad, like a Lewis Capaldi or Adele or Sam Smith or someone, or Ed Sheeran. I don't know anything that's out there. Oh, so I couldn't dance to it.
What music do you listen? Like, how do you find music? Are you on Spotify, or what do you do?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of old stuff. I did my workout today to Hall & Oates.
Oh, yeah, nice.
You can't go past a bit of mess.
I get it.
Are you listening for the art of the music? Because I don't think I listen for the art of the music. I'm just listening to rap and doof. But I feel like that's not you.
Well, if it's rap, I don't think I go past. I think like Dre 2000 is my cutoff album, and anything
great album, one of the best ever. Yeah.
Oh, some Eminem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
A
some
lot
of
of
that.
bangers,
Brilliant.
Eminem. Like, you can put on any Eminem song and sort of get into it, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of tragedy.
Yeah.
We like that. I think at the time when you're like really dissing out your mum, I'm sort of like I push back at that. But like, I like happy rap. Like, whatever happened to just like Jurassic 5? Just go, just talking about the, take it back to the concrete streets. Original beat. Happy rap. Like Will Smith. Like Will Smith clip on Family Guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, anyway.
TJ, do you have any other questions? Or?
No, I love it.
that,
I still think the most annoying thing about you pushing back on the TikTok is that you're talented. We can't sing, Josh.
Yeah.
We can't dance like you, but you can, and you have an opportunity. But you're just not taking it.
But do you think this is like
Just gonna leave you.
some sort of like deprivation that I'm giving to the private society of
Yeah,
Well, you're the face of privilege. Like, you got this skill and you're not using it on TikTok. You should be using it. Like, I'm trying my hardest with no abilities, just having a crack. And here you are being above TikTok.
Like, people who are good are sort of probably frowned upon because it's like, stop fucking showing off your, your tall. Like,
nah, dude.
hat down.
Dancers are killing it. Like, that is, if you can move, there is some people that are gymnasts. Like, it's all happening, mate. Just spend a bit more time there. I mean, we don't really care that much. We're just in a TikTok loop right now.
Between the gram and the Twitter for the news, and then Facebook for whatever Facebook's for, to add a whole nother thing, like, I also got to like eat and like sleep and like, be active, maybe read a book. Yeah. Like, this thing.
Oh, what are you reading? Are you reading books?
Yeah.
What do you got?
What you got?
Well, I'm the sort of normal people. Do we know this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Bree's reading that.
I Oh no, the last thing I read was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is a classic book. But I tend to read either spiritual things or sort of like just everyday life, people and their stuff. And the thing about Eleanor Oliphant, I can't. It's sort of like when I go to Waterloo Station or Bakerloo Station, I can't sing this without a tune in my head. So anytime I go to Waterloo Station, Waterloo, and Bakerloo, I always have Baker Street.
Great.
I always have Eleanor Rigby, like every single time I open this book. So I have that stuff in my head, and so I try and read it through the song in my head. And that's why 2 weeks in, I'm only 46 pages in.
So you're a slow reader.
No, I'm generally a medium-paced reader. I wouldn't say I'm fast. Lottie's very fast. But I'm just, I just have the song in my head and I can't get past it. But it's a bloody good book. So that's my.
It feels like a very book club book. I feel like I've seen the cover everywhere. Yeah, it's definitely got that vibe, you know. Well,
it's winner of the British Book of the Year, 2 million copies sold.
Yeah.
Well done, Gail Honeyman.
It's a good effort.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you had 2 million,
would you ever write a book?
copies,
Do you think?
Pardon?
Would you ever write a book? Do you think?
What would I write about, Josh? Let's be honest.
I don't know. I just romanticize, you know, this existence, but then you do talk about, you know, not talking until midday, and then just like a light exercise, and then maybe there isn't sort of, you know, the romantic side.
There isn't. I mean, my biggest joy comes from, you know, being out on stage, you know, and sometimes it takes 21 hours of, you know, going inward so that I can spend 3 hours going outwards, you know. So
it's pretty epic. It's like an you're an athlete, really. Like at that point, like being able to have that amount of discipline. Do you crave discipline?
Yeah. I'm a stickler for that, and like, you know, I mean, haven't shut up about it since we got on air, but Lottie will attest to the fact that I do my scales every day, and even in lockdown, I'm, you know, having singing lessons with my coach and working on things, and you know, it is a discipline. I think, you know, if you're an artist who gigs once a month or every few months or whatever, you know, you might not do it all the time, and you can whip it out and come to it and leave it, and there's a bit more sort of simplicity in it. But if you're doing it 8 times a week, there's no way you can do it without having like intense structure and discipline and that sort of athlete's mentality. But the difference is that for athletes, I think that sort of, maybe I'm wrong, but like that push sort of tunnel vision focus can really work. I think as an artist, it can only work so far. At some point, you actually have to give into your heart and your soul and a really sort of deep emotional place to deliver a performance that enables people to feel. Like, you need to go to a place where you feel deeply in order for 1,500 or 15,000 or 150,000 people to feel as well. So that's where it's sort of different. It requires, I think, both disciplines. So, yeah.
It's so impressive. I just think like
it's so good seeing it all unfold. Remember when we were in New York City and we're in Washington Square Park?
I know. Remember you guys were like, you had slept. And you were vivacious. You had an energy about you. You had a sort of life.
We're in New York, baby. Now
Prana.
New York.
Was moving. Now you're just like, as Mason does, a little bit of a publicity stuff. I just cannot believe you guys are doing this. I'm so impressed, but I'm also baffled about the madness of it. Like, what inspired you guys to go to 24-hour?
I think it just came from, because we it's just a nice round number, and being in ISO as well. I guess it's just like, why not? You know, like, why do we do some people walk marathons. Like we're going to chat to our mate Tom in Vienna, who's just walked a marathon while we've been doing the show. People do dumb shit, you know. Tom's wasted his whole day. We've wasted our whole day. You've wasted an hour. Like we all do dumb shit, you know. But we appreciate it. We have fun.
Didn't you do the 40-hour famine when you were growing up?
Nah, like it was definitely the thing with the 40-hour famine is it like because we've spoken about me being a fat kid and stuff. No, but I remember they were very cool.
Oh, beautiful man, JJ.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But no, I think I pushed back on it a little bit because I was worried that I would get very obsessed with the whole thing. But did you ever do it?
No, but in a time of my life where I cared more about my abs than my vocal cords, I definitely did a lot of fasting, like a lot of that intermittent fasting and all of that stuff. And it was an experience. It worked. I wasn't necessarily happy, but it worked. So yeah, I don't. If it's for you, it's for you. But I like food, like eating. I wouldn't, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the 40-hour famine's for a great cause. I'd do it for something like that, but not for some ego trip. On 24, this is the sixth time we've spoken about her. Favourite series of all time, Lottie?
Series 24.
Who's the man? Jack Bauer.
Love of.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen it.
Bauer, love of my life. I'm fucking chopped liver here, boys.
Dude. Oh,
It's
I got
absolute
told.
money.
It's so Jules Lund was telling me that back in the day, TV series weren't popular for actors to do. It was sort of frowned upon. You were cinema, not TV. And then Jack Bauer on 24 became the person that sort of was like, oh my God, you can have a successful acting career as a TV star now in these big series. And it's sort of, look at it now, like how big are some of these actors just from TV series? So cool.
Well, I want to put it out there that Alan Fletcher, Dr. Carl, was way before Jack Bauer. Dr. Carl's been doing it up on Neighbours for 25 plus years. So he was way before Jack Bauer and still there going strong. So props to Alan Fletcher. That sort of idea of like the series, I think 24 was like one of the first, before like Prison Break and all those other awesome ones. I think that was
Was it an HBO? Or who did 24?
But it was certainly one that everyone like watched. Yeah. And what a great concept. Yeah. It's like a day in the life of and in absolute real time. 24 hours.
Yeah. Simple concept.
To stop the bomb, to do something like that. It was always stopping the bomb. Yeah.
Josh, we've got to go because we've currently got Tom, who's got 10% battery, and we need to get him on the call because he's just literally walked a marathon in Vienna.
42K.
42K. Yeah. Thank you so much, mate. Wow. Sending you lots of love and looking
love you, buddy.
Thanks, mate. Have a good one.
Dude, mate.
Brad Blanks is in the building.
Oh, here he is.
Brad Blanks.
Hey, fellas. Jeez, you're looking fresh. You look good. You look fantastic.
You've got to pump us up now. We're having some Macca's breakfast.
We've got Macca's.
That's good. Hey, Tommy, I've hit my lethargic zone too. This is usually when I'm having my lockdown nap, 2 p.m. So I've got to fire myself up. I've have a cup of tea. But well done. What a performance you guys have put on. What a show. The Gronks are happy out there in the world. The social media is a buzz of this crazy group of people that have created this, and that's you guys. So well done.
What have you done today, Brad? What have you done last 24 hours?
What's your last 20?
Yeah, 24 hours. Good. That's good. Nice dinner with the family. I decided to drink last night, so had a few beers. Kids, Mrs. went to bed early, and I stayed up watching TV. Actually, my 10-year-old son, I watched Moneyball with him. I loved that movie with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, based on the great book Moneyball. So I tried to teach my kid the the value of life.
Is it a book? I couldn't tell whether you're joking or not.
It was a book.
Is it a good?
No,
Is it
it's
good?
serious. Yeah, great book. Phenomenal book. Yeah, and it gave me my love for baseball. So yeah, it's great. Really good. Michael Lewis wrote it.
Actually,
the Big Short. Good book. You should all
Josh,
read it.
you would like that. I actually think you'd like the film itself. And then The Big Short. The Big Short's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Like Moneyball, I had not watched it for 9 years, and then watched it last night, and it doesn't really end. There's no real ending. It's just nice. It just sort of finishes gently. Brad Pitt walking around, and it's good. Good film. Yeah, Josh,
I mean, that's what you can do when you got Brad Pitt in a film. Just have him walking around, just looking like Brad Pitt. And then just finish the film.
He doesn't
everyone's like, that's a good film.
Yeah.
That's a great
on
film.
On the baseball thing, Brad, like, have you always been a Yankees fan?
Look, Yankees. Being a Yankees fan, you become a front runner, right? So, look, I live in New York, and I have love for the Yankees, but I always want to see the Mets do well. I have a lot of friends that are Mets fans. I'm a Western Bulldogs fan in Melbourne, so I'm probably a bit more Mets fan base that I'm a part of.
So that Yankees hat, then, that's like slightly controversial then?
Fashion, controversial. No, look, I love when you go to Yankee Stadium and you watch the Yankees, you're watching something that's pristine, a great product they put out there, and it's legendary to be out there. So, but I'm a little bit, a little toe in the Mets camp. Support Jerry Seinfeld. He loves the Mets. Yeah, They actually asked him. TMZ asked Jerry Seinfeld about a month ago, probably 2 months ago now, before lockdown. They said, "Jerry, why don't you buy the Mets? We need someone like you running the Mets, a lifelong fan." And Jerry came out with this great quote: "Why would you buy a baseball team? Because really, the pinnacle of owning a baseball team, the pinnacle of feeling, not necessarily owning it, is to sit in a seat, have a beer, eat a hot dog, and watch baseball. Nothing can be better than that." And it was a beautiful Seinfeldian line. He's so true. There's nothing more pure than just sitting there. Why would you want to own it and have the pressures of selling hot dogs and selling beers and getting attendance and that, when you just sit there, relax, drink a beer, and eat a hot dog and watch America's pastime?
And definitely.
Yeah, it is so true. Hey, just one thing before my mind gets the better of me.
That's great.
Just after you were on, Brad, 20 hours ago, Cobram Caravans song. We have someone who works with your dad, I think. Is this your dad's business?
He knows about it.
Yes. Yeah,
well,
Peter Ennell's
we got an
Cobram
email.
Caravans.
Can you sing the song, because that's what he requested?
Yes. All right. Yeah. This is what I used to sing at parties in the Murray Goulburn Valley region of Northern Victoria, and people thought I was the actual person that sang it on the radio. So this commercial would go through all country Victoria and southern New South Wales on all the radio stations, and I'll kick off. All right. Well, Peter Reynolds, he's your man. He's from Cobram Caravans. He'll do it right for you. Brand new, second hand, he'll do the best deal that he can. It's Peter Reynolds, Cobram Caravans. Oh, yes, indeed.
Dude,
there you go.
That was running when I was in Shepparton. That ad was running in
yes.
2014, 15. No shit. As soon as you start that caravan, oh man, that brought back memories.
Yeah, the memories.
That was from Tim. His dad works for Peter. So.
Oh right.
And Peter's your
Tim,
dad. And Peter's your dad, Brad.
Yeah, Peter's my dad. Yeah, he's clicking on now. He's about 76 years of age, still going strong. The whole coronavirus has miffed him because he's had such a wonderful business where people have always walked in. People always want to see a caravan. Caravans are interesting to people that are into them, and people that are tickling into the caravan business love going there. And there's a lot of gadgets in a caravan. Yeah, a lot of space maximization. So
the cup holders.
Your cup holders. There was a revelation when microwaves got inserted into them.
Oh, that's cool.
Back in the late 80s. Yeah. But Dad just couldn't believe that no one was walking into his business. I'm like, Dad, we're on a global lockdown. He goes, yeah, but people still need caravans. I'm like, Dad, no, this is bad. This is lockdown. And then a week later, he went, oh yeah, I think I've figured it out now, son. Yes, you're right. This is pretty serious. I said, Dad, just eat some noodles, eat noodle soup, ring your accountant, make sure everything's fine, because when this gets lifted, your business is going to be the Bubba Gump of travel and leisure. Get ready. Hold on to your hat.
The McMuffin that I'm just about to eat got me thinking, what is your favourite fast food in the US? Just while I eat. Johnny.
Look, I've tried to watch what I eat lately, over the last few years, but so that means I can tackle the Chipotle, Chipotle burrito. Mm-hmm. That's probably the fastest food and that you think is healthy. Look, I'm a Macca's guy, born and bred. I'd smash that Shepparton McDonald's. I lived in Cobram, which is 45-minute drive north of Shepparton, so I grew up there, and we'd always pull into the Shep McDonald's that Tommy would know. Which
one? When I was
they opened two.
When I was living,
the what? Yeah, the south side one. The one
there was okay. Yeah, Josh, you've been to that one, but at one point there was, I think, 4 in Shepparton.
In Shepparton? I didn't know that, right?
Mate, there was one at the Plaza, one North End. Oh yeah, there was 4. One at the Plaza, one North End, one South End, and then one in the mall. Mate, they've got they've got fucking 40,000 people there. They don't need 4 Maccas.
No. It was such a revelation in 1982 or 83 to get a McDonald's in Shepparton. And it was just unbelievable. And I'd get 5 cheeseburgers at a time and just smash them. So I love my Maccas. And I've even been... And I essentially had 3 years off McDonald's to try and, cut my weight. And I'm going to make a comeback after this. COVID will get me back on the McDonald's bandwagon because I deserve it.
There's so many options, though, isn't there? Like, I feel like there's, in regards to fast food in the US, what do you think about...
Wendy's put out a good product. Wendy's is good.
Larry legit in the YouTube comments actually mentions Wendy's,
Yeah, they look healthier. Their lettuce looks healthier, and they do a nice salad and that sort of stuff. And their shops are, if you get a good shop, they're quite nice. They have flowers on the table in sort of the more suburban ones. And what else have we got? We'll go to the McDonald's, which I love.
Chick-fil-A? Are there any Chick-fil-A's in
Chick-fil-A is
New York?
huge. Yes. It's on the corner of 6th Avenue and 39th Street. And when it opened, lines went around the corner. They've opened a couple more in the Midtown area. Huge, just, massive. And they took a long time to come to New York. They were more of a southern fast food. But their chicken is so good. And you get chicken in pita and chicken buns. And, oh, my goodness, fantastic. And you'll get lost in there, the Chick-fil-A place. But it's good. Good.
Do you like Nando's?
I keep thinking you're frozen, Josh, with the way you're holding that.
I'm moving.
Up.
Sure.
Yeah, I know.
Look at it. It's just
Nando's.
Do you like Nando's in Australia?
Nando's. When I lived in London, I hit Nando's. They're the one in Earl's Court. That's that's about 97, 98, 99. And I don't think I partook when I went back to Australia in that. What did I eat? I ate a lot of that, and someone will help online. When I moved back from London to North Bondi, and I hit the chicken place in North Bondi there.
What's it called?
gone. No, it's not the one you're thinking of, Josh. It's gone now. It was in North Bondi.
Oh, really?
It's Charlie's. It was like, what was it called? Fuck.
Isn't the one that
Pete? We're thinking about this because
intern Pete's got the deal with, or no? It's the one that Ben Fordham. What's that called?
It was North Bondi. They used to do burgers.
No?
It wasn't Char Grilled. It was a little chicken shop up in North Bondi.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It
was very sad.
It was
so sad.
It's funny. I'd always be in there, and Will Anderson would be in there at the same time, ordering his chicken dishes when I was in there. That's 2000 when I moved back and lived there. Smash that chicken joint. Oh, it's delicious.
Now I've never had
Papa
John's.
Like in Bondi.
I go on to yeah.
So I just wanted to get the big 6'7" Aussie bloke. Just did you own it?
Well,
were you training down there?
No, trendy area. I reckon I got there at a pretty good period. It was in that flux stage where it was just about the boom. And I'm going off. I left there in April 2001, and a lot of friends were still in there for 01, and they just said it just zoomed off. 01, 02, 03. So I was in there in the Sydney Olympics era, and it was good. I could feel there was pulse on this. We'd go to the Beach Road Hotel every Wednesday night and smash chicken schnitzels out the back there, and then into the bar, and then upstairs. It was kind of like and I'd come from London and come from Europe and the backpacker scene, so it was like just stepping straight back into that scene. It was because you're out there, everyone's Swedish, English, South African. It was going off, and I was like a foreigner in my own country. It was pretty good fun.
How are you as a host? Like we got to see your hospitality when we were in New York for the short period. For those longer trips, if you have family coming over to the States, where do you, and you have a few days, what do you do?
Well, first, what would happen so I got to America in October 01, and I slept on friends' couches and whatever, and eventually I got my own place in May 2002, and I got a hotel room. It was a trade deal through the radio station. I think I've told you guys about that. The Hotel Pennsylvania, across the road from Madison Square Garden. And I lived in there for 6.5 years, and so I had my bed made every day, which was exceptional. But in that time of living there, and I had a suite. I had like my own little room with a door that would open up on this massive suite that would overlook Macy's. And in that suite, I got like 4 roll-out beds, and I'd put them in there. And I had about 150 people come through and stay with me in that time. Now, the reason I had people stay with me, I'd get it like, let's just say, Josh and Tommy, you'd go to me, oh, Brad, we're not coming over on this trip, but Mr. 97's coming over. Would you like to catch up with him for a beer? And Mr. 97 would come over. We'd get on the beers in the first night, nothing crazy. And he'd go, I'm sleeping in this hostel down the street. And I'd be like, oh, Mr. 97, come on. You're staying with me now, buddy. Here you go. So he'd come in and move into the spare room on the fold-out bed, and that is how I sort of collected people staying with me. Now, one of the reasons I did it is that I'd love to have mix with Mr. 97, but I didn't need to have repetitive meetups with people I didn't really know. I could just see them over a quick coffee after my morning radio show. I was so busy in the O's. I was working pretty much 24/7. You know how these jobs are, radio jobs. You're always on the hunt and you're always out there having a crack. And I couldn't really just have social 3-hour sessions on a Tuesday night. But I still wanted the social aspect of people and seeing people. So they just stay in my spare room. And 150 people came through. I actually had I had Apex, the under 40s club, the Australian, it's a global club, and they do working bees. My dad was in Apex, when I was growing up, and they had an Apex reunion in eight guys, and they're all like 65-year-olds, and they all came and stayed in my fold-out beds because it was my dad, my uncle, their friends, and and geez, they drank a lot. They drank till about bloody 4 a.m. every night, and I was getting up at 4:30 going to the radio station. These guys were wild, but I enjoyed that hospitality side of it. But it was a little bit selfish. It's just Josh, I couldn't give too much time and socially because I was still had the girlfriend, had to keep her.
So
happy.
Does that habit die then when you have a family? You're not having Gronk stay at your joint now, are you?
No. The habit's got, and I'm a big now. People hit me up when you come to New York. I'd love to have a beer, but I'm a massive 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. beer guy. That I just do the happy hours, and then no one gets hurt.
How
Is
many
that
beers?
big?
That's good.
To you?
Tom?
How many beers from 5 till 7? What do you get in?
I stick to the light beer, but that doesn't mean light in alcohol. You've had a discussion before. It's about 4.5%. I'm probably six beers, and I reckon you can corner life's big issues when you meet someone in that time. When it's not a transactional meeting, when it's just a pure meet up with a stranger, you can get to the root of things pretty quickly. It's a good chat, actually. It's good times.
I mean, that's almost that's 2 beers. You need to have 2 beers, sort of almost do a double round for yourself when you're going up, or for you, and it's almost getting 4 beers in a round.
Yeah, that's right. Did you guys go to McSorley's? Does that ring a bell?
No.
Look,
I think
Mr. 97. You're hot on the internet there. Yeah, McSorley's. Yeah. Look that up. We'll have to do that next time. And you only spooked me then because of the 4. When you buy a beer there, you can only order light or dark. And when you order one, I have one beer, and the gruff Irish waiter will say light or dark, and you go light, and then you'll get 2, and then you'll go to the waiter. Hold on, I only ordered 1. He goes, we serve 2 per round per person per order here, and it's awesome, and it's very much like the soup Nazi of beer Irish waiters. The guy is very, but I've had many a great times in there. And we'll go there. And we come back, sawdust on the floor. They say it's the second oldest.
Oh, I feel like you
bar in New
told
York
us
City.
about this. I think you wanted to take us there, but we didn't have we didn't have time. The sawdust on the floor definitely rings a bell.
Yeah, I've got now on your trip again. Yeah, because you put out such great content, and people should be able to. Can they Google on your site or search on your site for New York interviews? Because I saw you interviewed Eddie Buckingham, a good friend of mine of Chinese tuxedo fame. It was fantastic. And you ran into Chase Jarvis on a street corner. Is that?
Yeah, we did.
How did that happen?
It was the day after. It was the day of interviewing Seth Godin, and we were walking along near the Flatiron building, and there was a guy with noise cancelling headphones, and I said to TJ, I'm like, "Oh, that's Chase Jarvis," and I sort of kept walking. I'm like, "Oh, should we stop?" TJ's like, "Oh yeah, I'll ask him," and so TJ bravely, because he was wearing Bose noise cancelling headphones on a call, and just sort of tapped him and said, "Oh, hey Chase."
I don't
was
know
he
what
off the
happened.
call?
He must have
He was about to go on a call?
He was making calls on a corner, and he just finished one, and I got him as he got off. And I was like, mate, Chase, mate, big fan. A couple of blokes from Aussie, we're about to do a podcast. I just sold it to him. He's a creative dude, though. He gets it. He's like, sweet, let me just make this call, and I'll jump in. I said, jump in when you can. Doing it. And then he just came over.
It was really interesting because just telling that story, I wouldn't have known how he would be off. He's really good on camera and when he's on, but you kind of got him in an awkward moment, and he was very, and I could sense that he enjoyed it when I listened to that interview. He enjoyed coming on with you guys, and
I think it's the thrill of being in New York. I could imagine, he's not from New York. I think he's from Seattle or something like that. And it's like being in New York, having 2 random gronks from Australia come up. And I think that was part of it, which I'm sure that you do within it. It's like you want to try and slip in the fact that you know who they are. Like you're trying to give them those little hints that they're like, that you follow them and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was...
on that day, how did it work? So you went... You got the call up to interview Seth Godin, and he's up in Tarrytown. Is that?
He's in Hastings on Hudson Hastings on Hudson.
Can you talk me through how? So you guys are on the train. I mean, this is a huge get, right? Obviously, to interview him. Are you nervous on that train journey as you're going up? How are you feeling? Are you prepping, or what's your mindset?
How do you feel?
It was weird. It was. We got up at 4. We got up some ridiculous hour because we're like, we can't miss this. We were in where were we? Soho, Little Italy, or what's the Lombardi's Pizza? We're just across the road from there. That's where we're staying, and then we jumped on the subway and went to Grand Central Station. So it's completely dark still, and so then we got on that train that takes you out of Manhattan, and it was dark, and so we didn't really get to experience a sort of, the view that we got on the way back was, seeing school buses, like a whole yellow field of those school buses and the beautiful Hudson River. We didn't experience that on the way there. So it was very I think we were pretty quiet. It was the first night in New York, second night in New York, or first night. Yep. And so we've done all our planning.
Yeah, we were definitely nervy though, but the train was really nice. It was almost like the equivalent of a V-line train or something you'd have in Victoria.
I was nervous. I was nervous for you, Josh. But you get there, but is it darkness when you get to his town, and then
the light was coming. No, the light was coming up, and so we ended up going to a diner, and there there was a really lovely lady from Yonkers. It's Yonkers, yeah.
Misty? What was her name? Misty,
yeah, I think
maybe
it's Misty.
it was. I can't remember.
Misty from Yonkers. And she was, been working there for 20 years or whatever. And we were probably 200 meters away from Seth Godin's office. And so we were like, she's like, oh, what are you doing? She thought it was so cool that there was a couple of Aussies at the diner. And she said, what are you doing? He said, oh, we're interviewing Seth Godin. And she's like, oh, no, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, what? And then so we show a photo. I'm like, surely you've seen him around. She's like, oh, he sort of looks familiar. But you get the sense that Seth, I mean, he's veggie or vegan. He's like, I don't know if it was a pretty like classic diner experience. And I feel like, I don't know if I could imagine Seth potentially going to that diner.
So, all right. So when your time comes, are you 10 minutes early and you go up to his office, or how does that?
I think we must have been,
Mate,
40 minutes or something, or at least an hour, probably.
We were like an hour and a half early to Hudson on Hastings, but then we spent time in the diner, drank way too much coffee, needed to piss too much, but we went to the supermarket, and then we were classic. Like, imagine if he came down. We were untangling XLR cords at the bottom of his office, like downstairs, just out the front. Imagine if he rocked up and was like, Do
you know what? Actually, it reminds me, walking in reminded me of the Willy Wonka scene where Charlie goes into his office at the end. And I think he does that whole scene where he's angry or whatever, but it's just quiet and he's sort of like walking through the office. And it's because we walked in and what's his son name? Is it Mo? He's
Mo,
yeah.
Such a nice guy.
Seth's son, who's a web developer or whatever. And he introduced himself, like we sort of knocked on the door, it was sort of half open. And we walked in and we introduced ourselves or whatever. He said, "Oh, Dad's just on a call with Dropbox," or like he was on a call or whatever. And when Seth came out, he said, "Dropbox, I'm having troubles with my Dropbox. I'm speaking to the product manager of Dropbox. I'm trying to get them to fix my Dropbox." He was like, not happy about the Dropbox.
It's great.
Yeah.
Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want something?
Yeah,
Do you want a drink?
So we
Josh,
asked
you always do you do the polite thing and decline. You're like, fuss you. I'm like, mate, I'll have a tea. But then he got into it.
Yeah.
What do you want?
He has all prime numbers or whatever, like mugs with prime numbers. He had a rubber duck just sort of sitting there and just shit everywhere. Like he's not a minimalist. He's got so much stuff, just like stocks, like so many books that he's obviously like hasn't gotten rid of all the stock, and it's just like piles of paper. And I gave him the handheld mic. He's like, "Oh, my shoulder, I can't hold the microphone. I've got a bad shoulder." Wow. And so he took a mic stand that was designed for like a desk mic and put like a vocal mic in it. And I was just like, I said something like, I need to get, we're taking photos or whatever. I'm like, I'll avoid that, the mic setup. And I remember he gave pushback because he's like, if it works, it works. Like he's the type of guy that he had his bathroom that he'd converted into a voiceover booth. So you think of the most echoey, the worst room for reverb would be a bathroom. Yeah. And then he's taken his shower and padded the whole thing. But it's just like janky, like cables everywhere, just like 1,000 USB. Like you would have every sort of cable. It's almost like a mad scientist.
And yet he's so clean cut, and how he talks and how he presents. It's totally opposite of what you'd think Seth Godin would. That's good insight. Good job. That's great.
Well,
amazing.
He's a man of the mind, right? Like it's his mind that is his superpower.
Right. Yeah. And when you open up, turn the mics on, and go, do you feel that he wants to help you in your question? Was he kind and generous, or did you have to be? Did you feel you had to be on point?
Oh no, he was so generous.
Oh, good.
So generous.
Wow.
I mean, I think the the most amazing people to interview, and I'm sure you know, are the ones when you ask a dumb question, they give you the best fucking answer. And he's that guy. You could ask him anything, and he will just find the nugget. And it's like, I didn't even ask a good question. You've just answered something profound. You know, but I think he does that work, and that's his generosity, right? Mm. That's where it lies.
Right. What was your pitch to him, though, to get the interview?
How about I read it? I could read it to you if you want.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
But it's fascinating, right? Because he's beloved globally by marketers and people, and and people, ambitious people wanting to get ahead, and also very successful people idolize him. So he's this interesting guy, and you guys got on a train, set it up, went up there, and
got on a plane first.
This interview. Got on a plane.
Got on a plane.
It's
We don't
really good.
Yeah.
No, really impressive. Yeah, that you got that interview. Yeah.
So that would have been what? So that was November
2018.
Oh, sorry.
No,
was
September.
it? Yeah, it was October. No, it wasn't September, was it? Maybe it was.
Yeah, I flew out on grand final day. Late
Jeez, you're
September.
good, Brad. How do you remember that?
Yeah. No,
Mate, Brad's
I'm weird
an
on
animal.
dates.
You reference
I
shit
don't know.
Like an
always with a year.
autism type of thing? Like he really like that good?
Maybe we
Seriously?
haven't. Yeah, like I don't know. I love dates. I like dates.
So if I said the
periods
14th
where
of
I am.
September 1990, the 14th of September 1990, would you remember my birthday?
Was it your birthday then? You were born then. That was your birthday, was it?
14th of September 1990.
Right. I'll remember that now. Yeah, I'll remember it now. I used to be able to, 20 years ago, I could tell you what I was that day, but now there's been so much gone through. I know where I'm meant to be this moment. I'm meant to be, for the last 18 years, I'm at Churchill Downs Racecourse in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, for the Kentucky Derby, and that's called off this year, obviously. And this is where I am at this moment every day, which is an odd that I've managed to keep my marriage alive because it's my wife's birthday today as well. So,
you animal.
Yeah, that's kind of
Okay, here we go.
So that's a whole other story, Tommy. Thank you.
Here we go. You ready? So this was the so this email was sent the 24th of July, 2018, to Seth Godin. Hi, Seth. A couple of months ago, you were nice enough to write a sentence describing Peter Shepherd, which I used to intro him when he was a guest on our podcast. So basically, when we knew we had Pete on, we said, Seth, like a very short message, Seth, we've got Pete Shepherd on. Do you have anything nice? Like, is there something nice that you would say about him that we can sort of quote before the show? He's nice enough to do that, which was cool. It was something along the lines of, if I was in the middle of the ocean, I would want Pete there with the boat or something. Anyway, so this is what I said. I've now done 135 episodes of the Daily Talk Show with my mate Tommy. We started the show to ship regularly and provide company for ourselves and our friends who work for themselves. We've managed to create a small listenership of diverse people, full-time bloggers, train drivers, accountants, and filmmakers. We'll be in New York City in the first week of October. If you're available and interested, it would be our pleasure to have you on our show. 1 hour or 45 minutes, a quick portable audio setup. We'd chat about self-starting, about alt MBA, about ambition and friendship. Please let me know if you're willing to be on the podcast. I completely understand if you're too busy or if it doesn't make sense from your end. Thanks for everything you do. So that was the first one. What did we think?
That is beautiful. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a layup. That's
right.
Like, that's just... Yeah. Oh, it's just like putting a bow on it, which is what it's all about. I mean, there's a lesson in that email. Just wonderful.
And so that was on. So I sent that on the 24th of July.
Yep.
Bree and I would have been traveling in Italy at the time.
Bree
and
says
so we had
Positano.
Yeah, so that was when it all. That's when we found out. Yeah, and so this was. So we weren't planning, like we hadn't actually locked in that we were going to New York. That wasn't sold in. TJ still had to tell Amy or ask Amy, hey, this is something we want to do. So it was very early days. We had no intention. But if we got Seth, we were planning on doing it. So he writes back on the 31st, after I sent the first one on the 24th. He says, thanks, Josh. I appreciate the note. And sorry for the delay. Are you hoping for audio only? That's probably easier remote. Can you point me to the podcast past episodes? And I said, on the 31st of July, let's see how long. So I took 3 hours to write back to him. I said, thanks so much for the response, Seth. Yes, audio only. If you would be more comfortable doing it remote, I completely understand and will make that work. From a conversation dynamic point of view, we do prefer in person, as being in the same room has a different energy. We can make either happen at our end. If it was in person, I can assure you that would be quick and respectful of your time. No interest in hustling or, as we say in Australia, taking the piss. Here's a link to the episode we did with Peter Shepherd and our chat with Jordan Evans. She also has done Alt MBA. I'm currently traveling for the next couple of months, so my co-host Tommy and I are doing the show remote. We'll be meeting up in New York City and Los Angeles in October to do the podcast from there. Side note, Tommy, my co-host, and I absolutely loved your conversation with James Altucher. Your words around small audiences and the intimacy of spoken voice really resonated with us, and it completely aligned with our vision of the Daily Talk Show. Thanks so much for getting back to me, Seth, Josh. And so then
It's a good one.
he wrote back, enjoyed the episode with Peter, and thanks for not posting my email address, because I think we joked about having his email address. I can do it with you guys, the second or third. I can add a lot of energy remotely, but if you want to come up, that's okay.
Good.
But I need to minimize the in and out time because it's a crazy month for me. So if you want to come, shake hands, record, and then hit the road, that's cool. But I don't want to be rude. And then yeah. And so what's your take on that?
I get, yeah. No, I think, I mean, he obviously, the in-person thing, it's like that whole thing when you do a meeting and then you leave the meeting, go to the bathroom, and then you go to the elevator with the same person you had the meeting with. Yeah. It's like you've already done your goodbyes, and then you've got to make small talk, and that meeting might have gone bad if it's you pitching an idea or something and you failing. Yeah, but in an interview like this, he just wants you out. I mean, which is fair enough.
Definitely.
Like there's no mateship afterwards. It's all going to be left on the table or in the microphone, which is wonderful, and it proved that. No, that's really good. I'm glad I asked on that. I've got one topic on Seth Godin I need to ask you guys, and it does relate to the fact that your show is the Daily Talk Show. But something he said, I know you brought it up in one of your interviews. I think you might have brought it up with Andy Lee, and it was to do with the fact that and it's one of Seth I've heard him talk about, you do the podcast because you do a podcast to arrange your own thoughts. So in some ways, you're doing a podcast. Obviously, you want an audience and all that. Yeah. But the mission of the podcast is to organize your own thoughts, to be your own creative in whatever endeavor you're doing outside of what a podcast is.
Has your light gone out?
Yeah, it's gone.
No,
Mine?
he's gone.
His actual light has gone out. It looks like pitch black, but it's actually just his light.
Did that make sense?
Yeah. So
I know.
Definitely, TJ, you can talk to that.
Well, how do you become more articulate? And maybe by speaking. And for me, it's probably not the best approach. I think I've become smarter or more. What's before being articulate? You need to have it in your mind, or you need to have the thoughts in your head. I think I've been able to definitely arrange it in my mind by trying to vocalize it first and make that mistake and fumble. I think that's worked really, really well for me. I think that's a part of you. I mean, and then it's the cathartic nature of talking about what is on your mind. And I think it's it's the release that you get from it, and there's all those factors of connection and hitting those things that align with your passion, or like storytelling or entertaining. All these things being hit in that spoken word or this kind of a format. I think. What do you think, JJ?
Synthesization, like it's similar to writing. So I think that like we write to construct our thoughts and ideas, and I think that's like, for me, it's more about conversation and listening. I think like having a a team and then having guests. I think that teaches me about listening. So, yeah, I think it's a huge part of it, like the self-development bit.
Yeah, and he has that point, doesn't he? He's the Godin says that everyone should have a podcast. Just basically because you guys have gave different answers there, which was wonderful. So it's different than I presume. Let's just go under the podcast banner. But Godin says everyone should have one because it arranges your thoughts. Arrange your thoughts. That's the beginning of everything, and it just fascinated me. And I know you guys have said that, and I think I even said when I met you, the fact that it was daily, your show was daily, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work for you guys, and you've smashed through it. I know it's a lot of work, but you make it look very easy now. But is it that whole idea that you'll enter a conversation and you'll have already thought about things you're going to answer, not necessarily researching, but how it will be constructed when you sit down for that 1 hour chat with your guests the following day?
Yeah, I think it's also like repetition is a big one too. So like the more you sort of say things and communicate, it's very like, I think it's also hard to sort of quantify because you just sort of end up you make these small changes, and so I don't know. Like I think the part of it, I think it's whatever you put into it. So you probably could say that the practice of having a tennis racket and a ball and hitting it against a wall would provide a bunch of benefits from hand-eye coordination, focus, all of these types of things. And I guess that's, I think, repetition in any form, whether it's writing, speaking. I think that the thing with the speaking is more about the listening. It's about like thinking about, what am I saying now, and how is it relevant to the people who are listening? What do they care about? How do we empathize with them? What's the other perspective? I think that's way more powerful than the speaking bit.
Right. No, good answer. On him again, one more is his friendship with Brian Koppelman. Have you listened to their podcast?
Yeah, I love them.
Oh yeah,
it's really interesting because they're so different. Like, Koppelman he's an artist, right? So he takes knocks and gets sad if someone crosses him at a dinner party over the job he does, or that he's a writer, a TV writer, and someone looks down at that, and he brings all this stuff up to Seth, and Seth helps him with these things. They're an interesting friendship. Like, I wouldn't have thought they would cross over, but I quite enjoy their chats, and that's very thematic. That Billions premieres Sunday night, the 5th season, which is Koppelman's show that he writes. This Sunday, so I'll be watching that.
Have you, Brad? Have you spoken about screenwriting? Have you done any writing yourself?
Yeah. That's what I set out to do 20 years ago. I was trying to write the next great Aussie sitcom, and I wrote it. I wrote the Bible, and I wrote the first 3 scripts, and I wrote those as an accountant in London. Came back to Australia to try and figure it, but I knew nothing. I didn't know who to go to or anything. And I was living in Sydney. I moved to Sydney for that reason, because I thought they'd be, they make TV up there more than Melbourne. I just assumed that. Probably because I was a Hey Dad fan, Anyway, and then I had this script, and I might have sent it to one person, and they gave me some criticism, and then I went, this is not for me. Put it under the bed, and then a month later I couldn't get an accounting job, and that's when I came up with the idea. Oh, why don't I try radio? I've got a wedding in New York in August 2000. Why don't I go over there and see if a radio station had want my Sydney Olympics reports from Bondi, and that's sort of when the radio little turn I took has ended up being here 20 years, which is good. But I love the screenwriting element of it. I did the Robert McKee classes. I've done two of those, and I went to Macquarie University, did one in I think June 2000, which was fantastic, and then I did another. Did him again in New York a couple of years later. So I would have loved to have gone down that road. But,
Can you still do it?
Still
Like,
can, I
is
guess.
it?
Look at us.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. I still, I think of ideas and try to write things.
Are you a note taker? Do you take a lot of notes?
Yeah, I'm a big note. Yeah, massive.
Can you show us one of your
note-taker,
notepads? Can you show us that?
Yeah. Let's have a look here. Yeah, have a look.
This is good.
Just take your headphones
I
in.
don't want to. Then we'll get
this
into
is
it
great.
Before
for
I
sure.
leave, ponder this. This is New York City, New York Post subway.
Scrubway.
There you go.
Scrubway. Okay, great.
It almost doesn't that just seem like a magazine, like the newspaper seems like it's out of a.
It's very
tabloidy. Out of Spider-Man, out of a Marvel movie.
It did look like that, didn't it?
It does.
Definitely.
It does. I
Looked
mean,
like
we're seeing
like
it
a
on
comic
movies, though,
cover.
but there is that sort of crazy nature. It's like it's all fake. It's like this fake.
There is something intoxicating about the
film
US.
set.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking love it.
What did I write here? I watched a bit of the, so just simple notes. And this is stuff and I started using a pencil, which is weird because my kids are homeschooling, so they got loads of pencils around, and I find it quite easier to write in. I have so much content, thousands of hours of interviews that I've never even published, and one thing came up the other day. I think I was watching Almost Famous, and I love Billy Crudup in that, and I interviewed Billy Crudup for the morning show last year, and I think I put the interview up on YouTube, and the interview was all about, I knew the interview wasn't going to run on radio or anywhere, so it was all about pretty much Almost Famous, which I love the movie, and him, I know he plays poker with a friend of mine, so it was all about poker, and it was great. So I wrote here morning show cast, and the rest of the cast, other than Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, who were so held back, were awesome. So I was like, why don't I republish all those interviews? And then I watched the Beastie Boys documentary, which I love, which someone should watch on Apple Plus. And
what's it called? What is it called? What's the doco called?
I think it's
just Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys, yeah, Beastie Boy. It's directed by Spike Jonze, and it's essentially them on stage. I think at the Apollo Theater in New York, in Harlem, and they just come out, and it's like it'd be like if you guys doing a cheese and wine night with a PowerPoint presentation, just running through your best of bits, and I'm like, wow, this is so simple, and the crowd was packed. They weren't even performing, but they were playing video clips of their. And I have an interview with one of the Beastie Boys from a red carpet for The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino. And it was great because he went into this whole bit about when the Beastie Boys were touring and he went and they saw Reservoir Dogs for the first time. And I'm like, to me, that's like a clash of one great genre of artists clashing with a Tarantino just as he's coming out. So that excited me. So that's... scrappy notes there with food items on them. But look. There's
I love your mind, Brad. Do you get that compliment a lot that people love your mind?
I don't know. I think maybe it's just we're all a bit nuts. I don't know. But look, no, and I gravitate towards you guys because you guys have a crack, and I had a crack, but my biggest thing as you get older, you having how I've gone is I've taken the foot pedal at certain times, and I've got to keep, and I'm probably getting that from you guys who are now pulling a bit of energy from you guys, and thanks for saying you like my mind to have a crack again, and to not give up, and that's I think that's the biggest challenge. But did you ever
it sounds like maybe that just became your new normal? Like if you're filling out notepads every week or every month or whatever, like that is executing on that. Do you think you've just gotten so used to and familiar with that it's become normal?
Well, I to be hard on myself, I think from the normal of writing the notes, I think you got to have actionable items, right? I've got to create, like I've just told you this story about interviewing one of the Beastie Boys on the red carpet of a Tarantino movie that I did like 5 years ago. That should be, I should finish this call with you guys after I do this, find that piece and just pump it, and because it was cool. And regardless of anyone seeing it, I enjoyed that story, so I should get that out. And I think I can take all these notepads, but at times I'm not actioning and that's where I've got to action more. To give it to probably highlight a weakness on my part. So,
I mean, if you're going to those sort of screenwriting courses and things like that, are there? I mean, it feels like the US has a course or a coach or a consultant for everything. Have you ever looked at sort of a consultant to help you with that?
Yeah, I have various forms of figuring that out, but that would be the right way to go. Like, look, I've been working on writing my book for a long time, and I've got, I've probably done a second draft of the book, and it's sort of a origin story. The first 2 years of my life in New York City, sort of how I got the job, how I had to change in the job, and then how I and then how I kept the job, and it's sort of that's those three elements into this story. That's essentially a drunken, late 20s fantasy, that went well, that worked in the end, and that I didn't get fired. So, there's something like that. I'd love to figure out how to get that, craft that into an idea, and figure out how to turn that into something. So, I have a bit of work to do,
Brad.
Josh. But
I feel like you've got a lot of contacts. When do you ask for help? When do you ask the powerful people around you for a hand?
I don't. And I put that down to, is it just kicking the can down the road, maybe? But it might be that whole perfection thing, wanting to have something perfect to do, to ask, but that's obviously not how you're meant to do it. You're meant to probably ask when you're 30% down the road. I don't know. I mean, I'm answering your question by throwing it back to you.
Oh, guess what? There's only 2 hours to go. Sorry, Brad. That was just...
no, it was great. I love that. It pumped me up. But I don't know the ask for help. That's something I've got to work on. Tommy. But you're right. I have to. But I think I've got to have something in a form. Anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense. You pick your ask when, and it's not, and I get it's who you ask. It's not like you can just. But I think you're great at friendships, from what I tell. If you ask me to help you with something, I'd fucking help you with a heartbeat.
Thanks, Tommy. Thank you. You're a good man. Yeah, no, thanks. It's good. There's something in that though. The whole helping people, which is good. It's a good discussion point. Maybe that could be one of your interviews down. Find someone who's a great. I'd love to listen to that podcast that you put out.
Michael Bungay-Stanier, who wrote the book The Coaching Habit, is one of the best coaches in the world. We've had him on the show a couple of times. One of his favorite questions is, what is your biggest challenge? So, Brad, maybe to finish up, you could answer, what is your biggest challenge right now?
Let's outside of the whole where we're all at and lockdown and whatever, but just in what was my biggest challenge in my creatively and where I wanted to go and whatever is actually sitting down and focusing. The easy part of my setup is being able to have a microphone and talk to people and create a fun conversation and keep that flowing and hopefully get some comedy and some laughs out of it, or in a radio environment or something like that. That's good. But how do you create that something solid? And that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think
focus work.
Yeah. Have you read Deep Work by Cal Newport?
I haven't, but I know I'm very it's one of those.
He did digital minimalism as well.
Yeah.
There's always a risk with those books that you sort of go, like you try and get off social media and do all that. You go too far.
Right.
But it feels like there is something. It's with all the archives and everything that you've got. That's the challenge, like that I even face, is like looking at, like, you almost have this huge weight on your shoulder, which is your past work that you feel like you need to tap into.
That's great. You're right. I think you asked me about Ricky Gervais, how many interviews? 19. Yeah. I should have been able to go back to you and go, here's the 19. Go and check out my SoundCloud, my YouTube, and you go bang, bang, and they're not all there. And that's on me.
But also, we're all flying. That's the whole thing, which is like it's you
We
just
are.
you wouldn't have. Did you know at the first interview that you would do 19 and that Ricky Gervais would be who he is, and like it's all just circumstances, right?
It is. Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, I'm pumped. This is good. Hope this has been a good 4 a.m. game. The paper boys are getting up now, ready to deliver the newspapers. The milkman's out. The bread's being baked, and you guys are still firing. So I
thanks so
commend
much,
you,
Brad.
and it's been a privilege to be a part of it and watch it. So thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Brad. Just
Thanks
quickly,
very
what
much,
was
buddy.
that newspaper? What was that newspaper?
sorry. It was the New York Post. Today's headline: they're cleaning. The first time ever, the subway will shut down every night to clean up scenes like this. So it's going to shut from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. and they're going to make sure all the homeless people get off the subways and they disinfect the trains. You know, so I
sounds
guess
like
it's
a
the
good
first
thing to
steps of first step in turning New York back on. I think the 15th of May is the official date when they're starting to lift things for New York State.
Oh, wow.
But anyway,
Awesome.
wow. What
Awesome,
crazy
mate.
days. All right.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Have a good
Bye.
one.
Bye.
See ya.